A little more than a year ago, we lost a very bright light in healthcare, the mighty Casey Quinlan. She was a true Renaissance woman, and that's something I wrote about in my tribute to her on Healthcare IT Today about a year ago. She just had an incredible life story. She was a journalist, she traveled the world, but most of all, she was a loud, brash, and bold patient advocate. Now, recently, the team at Academy Health have honored Casey's memory by renaming their patient scholarship in her honor. So I just had to find out more. Joining me on the program today is Kristin Rosengren, Vice President of Strategic Communications at Academy Health, and she is going to tell us more about this scholarship. Let's get to it. Kristin, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm excited to have you because this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. But before we dive into that, can you give our audience a quick overview of Academy Health?
Sure, I'd be thrilled to. So Academy Health is a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization based in DC, and we do health policy and research work really at the juncture of like healthcare cost, quality, access, and equity. So we're, in general, I like to say, not trying to solve or cure for disease. We're trying to diagnose, evaluate, and fix problems in the system that keep people from being healthy, because of the systemic problems. Most of that research is typically called health services research, but it might live under a number of different names because our members and our colleagues in the field come from a lot of different backgrounds. So they might be MD PhDs, they might be looking at, might be economists. So sometimes you'll hear it called different things, but really anytime you're looking at how do you fix the health system itself? How do you make it less unhealthy? Then you're talking about health services research, and that's what our members are working. So we have individual and organizational members. So we have members in academia or who are embedded in health systems. So the people that are doing like the data analysis and quality assurance analysis within those health systems. And then we also have members who work in think tanks and other types of sort of policy centers who are looking at, ways to improve the delivery of healthcare. We have a number of members that are in state government looking at, Medicaid programs, as well as working very closely with policymakers. They're less likely to be an actual member because of some of the various laws and ethics and those issues, but they tend to engage with our members, right, to get that evidence they need to make better decisions and to craft better policy.
Now, Kristin, the reason why I'm excited to talk with you today is earlier this month, you renamed your patient scholarship in honor of our mutual friend, mighty Casey Quinlan.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about that scholarship?
Sure. So Academy Health has had scholarships, and particularly patient scholarships, for a number of years, usually associated with our events. The Casey Quinlan Scholarship is specific to the Health Datapalooza because that juncture of sort of health data and patient advocacy is really someplace that Casey shined. And it provides a full registration and up to $1,500 in travel expenses for patients to participate in the Health Datapalooza. And we can use that for patients who are speakers and might need some additional coverage. But we often use it just for participant speakers, folks, to get them in the room so they can be part of the conversation. We also offer a limited number of just registration scholarships. So in addition, for the folks that might already be in the Washington, D.C. area and want to be able to participate in the meeting. It usually works out to be about 10 to 20 scholars a year or scholarships a year. It depends a little bit on the funding structure. We support the scholarship with both Academy Health sort of revenue and reserves. Again, we're a nonprofit, and with sponsor dollars. So a lot of times our sponsors and supporters will commit to an additional investment in order to make sure that we can support patient participation in the meeting.
And why is it important for Academy Health to include patients? And what do patients actually do when they're involved with Academy Health?
Yeah. I think it's critical for the patients to be involved. It really goes back to the mission. So our mission is to, improve health and healthcare for all by producing and using evidence to make better policy and practice decisions, right? If we're making healthcare better for all, then we sort of need the for all in the room, right? The people who are actually in these systems can help shape the questions and the problems, define the problems that need to be solved in ways that really no one else can bring to the conversation. So from our perspective, when the patients are involved, we actually end up with better research questions. We end up with better evidence. And ultimately, that means we can end up with better decision making and better policy making. That's true in all of our meetings, but it's particularly true at the Palooza. I mean, Health Datapalooza has always uplifted a patient voice. That's always been a commitment. But the other thing about the Palooza is that it's bringing together all of these different sectors to solve a problem, right? So we've got, public policymakers, we've got innovators from the tech sector, we've got, our typical academic researchers. So, we need the patient voice in that room because you're really looking at sort of all the different parts of the elephant. And that's what makes this meeting special.
And and why did you decide to rename that scholarship after Casey?
Oh, it was just, I mean, it had to be Casey. She was probably one of the first patients to truly actively engage with Academy Health. Certainly not alone in that, but a force, as you knew her. And she was really integral in helping us create our patient program. She was an early advisor to us. She has served on the patient committees. She was a friend to Academy Health. And I like to say she's like a true friend. A true friend is the person who'll tell you the truth when you need to hear it, right? Who knows what you're capable of and won't put up with you phoning it in. That was Casey, right? Like she knew what she wanted from the community and she knew how badly the world needed it. She wasn't going to let Academy Health check a box, right? If we were going to have patients on the agenda, we were going to be on the agenda. Um, and so when we thought about the scholarship, like it just made sense. That we give Casey her flowers, right? Like she set the tone.
Casey was not quiet, right? I mean, she was bold.
She was bold. Yeah, she was definitely bold.
Well,
Yeah.
and kudos to you for bringing her to the Health Data Palooza. I know she definitely enjoyed being at that conference. We spoke about it a couple of times, and I think she was most appreciative of the fact that no one looked at her funny, like for being
Oh,
there.
gosh,
I mean,
no.
because that was expected. It was expected that patients would be a contributor and an active participant, not just wallflowers, if you
Oh,
will.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit, Kristin, about the internal journey that it took for you to rename this a scholarship in her honor? What steps did you and discussions did you have to have?
Yeah. So I would love to tell you that I had to fight for this and it was very, very difficult. I'd even love to tell you it was my idea. Neither of those things are true. It was really very organic. We tend to plan our meetings in a very collaborative way, right? We've got advisory committees and we include our supporters and, use our networks to figure out what might be useful in that particular meeting. And our senior director of conferences, Amy Hammer, was on a phone call with Fred Nalmatrotter, who your listeners are probably familiar with. And Amy just sort of lofted the idea off the cuff in a brainstorm. And that was really all it took. I mean, everybody got excited about it. Fred reached out to Casey's estate just to be sure that they'd be comfortable with us using her name. We didn't want to surprise anyone. And, then they brought it back to the team at Academy Health and the conferences team and the communications team that I lead, made it happen. I mean, there weren't major hurdles we had to overcome. We just sort of decided. And it took on a life of its own, which again, I think is pretty perfect for something named after Casey, right? Like we spoke it into existence and then it just became. So it
Happened.
was one of the easier decisions I've ever made at Academy Health.
When you think of Casey, is there a memory that comes first to mind for you when you think about Casey?
Yeah, and I almost interrupted you earlier because it was such a great lead in. So I met Casey for the first time at an Academy Health meeting that wasn't the Health Data Palooza, right? So, if you've ever been to the Palooza, it has this sort of funky vibe. You've got, the Capitol Hill suits and the West Coast hoodies. And, as you said, Casey felt like no one looked at her because it was totally normal. Well, the meeting where I met her, people were absolutely looking at her. And someone came to me sort of in a pearl clutching moment as, the head of communications at Academy Health. And they were like, there's this redhead wearing this jacket with a vulgar expression on the back of it, really, laying into some of these speakers about including patients. And like, you need to look into that. And so, do my due diligence. I start asking around, and a mutual friend was like, "Oh, yeah, I know Casey. I'll introduce you." And so she introduced me to Casey, and she turned around, with the red hair and the tattoo and the, you know, jacket shooting shooting a hand gesture to the world. And I trained in public relations, right? And I just immediately responded to the brilliance of what she was doing. I mean, we talk about Casey as a force and being loud and calling attention, but she knew what she was doing, right? She wanted the suits in that room to pay attention to her, and she had their attention. And I thought, this is someone to watch. And it was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. Like, she wanted us to find her, and we did. But and I think it just really sums up, you know so much of what she did. But it's really important to remember that she was trained as a journalist, right? She had this crazy, exciting life that she just brought to everything she did. Um, and it was intentional, and it was brilliant, and it was mighty.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's the best way to put it. I mean, she was I think I called her a Renaissance woman, right? Just given how much, her diversity of experience, her lived experience,
yeah.
and the fact that, she was a journalist, like you said, and very media savvy, right?
Mhm.
So yes, she was bold, she was brass, but it was bold and brash for a purpose,
Right.
which makes
And
it different
also
than just,
authentic.
yes.
You know,
And
I
that's
mean,
the
yeah, just
And yes, her walking gallery jacket it was sort of epitomized her view of the world, right?
yeah.
With that image on the back, and that was certainly what I saw the first time. Was I saw the
Yeah.
back of her, and I thought, okay,
Mhm.
who is this? And I
Yes.
want to know them because it's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And yes, as you got to know her, you knew it came from a genuine place,
Mhm.
right? And she was not just doing it for, I'll call it, the attention for herself. She was doing
No.
it for the attention for the cause, right?
Right.
And that being patients and of people who were marginalized or not being included in all these conversations. So
Yeah.
that's kind of that's funny how you first met like that and were brought over
Oh,
to
yeah.
to see who this woman was.
Handle it, right? They want Kristen handle it. I don't think this is what they meant for me to do at the time.
I have to ask this question since our audience is, made up of provider organizations and
Mhm.
made up of people in health IT. What can those kinds of organizations do to get involved with Academy Health?
Oh, well, we would love to have all of them. I mean, so there are a couple of different things that I think are really important, right? With Academy Health, a lot of times what we're trying to do is really be that bridge between the people that are producing this evidence, right? The researchers themselves and the folks that are trying to use it. And so, getting that health IT community, getting that provider community engaged in Academy Health, they can do that as organizational members, which is an option. You can go to academyhealth.org and look under membership. Organizational members get certain benefits for visibility and support. But they can also join as individual members or participate in our meetings and events and come and learn from and with the community, right? So this is a place, the Health Datapalooza and our other meetings as well. It's a place to come and be part of the conversation. And, there is a place for folks who are at the beginning of their journey, who are learning about this intersection of health data and evidence and policy making. And there's a place for people who are leaders in that space to come and hear some new, fresh perspectives. So, the scholarship applications have closed. Actually, the notifications are going out this week, but registration for the Palooza is open. And, it is on World Patient Safety Day this year, which I think is so perfect for this connection to Casey. It's only one day. We're going to try and really cram it in there. But it's a great way to be part of the community and start to have that conversation and to build that network with some new voices and some new ideas. So we'd love to have your audience join us.
Kristen, where can people go to learn more about Academy Health?
Academyhealth.org. That's the easiest way to find us. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. We do maintain a presence on the site formerly known as Twitter, but I think we're most active in the LinkedIn space these days.
Kristin, it's been a pleasure having you on the program, and thank you so much for telling this fun Casey story, and thank you so much for naming the scholarship after her. And like I said, what a great way to honor such an amazing woman.
Well, thank you for having me. I love Casey's stories. I loved your reflections on her, and just really pleased to be here. Really honored. Thank you.
Hey, I really want to thank Kristin for coming on camera today. It was really fun to talk to her about her personal connection to Casey Quinlan and to hear why Academy Health chose to honor Casey in this manner. And thank you to the team at Academy Health for preserving the memory of such a dear friend. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode.